Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jamie Collingwood, Shaping Cloud's Head of Sales and Marketing. First and foremost, we're so sorry about this morning's bandwidth issue on LinkedIn. This is a pre-recorded version of what we planned to get through. So thanks for giving up some of your time to join our webinar on Demystifying Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365. We very much hope that you find it to be both informative and insightful. Before handing over to my expert colleagues, Jamie and Daniel, I'd like to share my take on this subject. Having spent a considerable amount of time working in the legal, insurance and finance sectors myself, I know something of the challenges. An increasingly complex landscape marked by new market entrants, innovative products and services, wide-reaching regulatory and statutory reforms, and of course, ever more increasing cybersecurity threats. At the same time, it's never been more important to protect, control, and boost the employee experience, safeguarding your mission-critical assets from either unintended or deliberate acts of harm. At Shaping Cloud, having already implemented this solution for one of the UK's largest law firms, we believe that Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 offer key benefits and advantages in all these respects and more. On that, we'd love your take. Please feel free to get in touch with any questions that you might have after watching this. Turning to the agenda, Jamie and Dan are going to cover an introduction to Windows in the cloud for about 5 or so minutes. Then they'll dig into the detailed capabilities of AVD and Windows 365 for around 35 to 40 minutes before wrapping up and then answering any questions that you might have that you send us. So without further ado, I'm delighted to hand over to Jamie and Daniel. Over to you guys.
Yeah. Hi guys. I'm Jamie, senior engineer at Shaping Cloud. I've been in the IT industry just under 10 years now, and I've been at Shaping Cloud just nearly 3 years. So yeah, focused on all things Windows, Microsoft Endpoint Manager, modern work, and more recently Microsoft Azure, Azure Virtual Desktop, and Windows 365.
Hey everyone, I'm Daniel and I'm a cloud engineer in the managed services team here at Shaping Cloud. I've been working here for just over a year and been working with a range of Microsoft products for the last 13 years, with a specific focus on Microsoft 365. Lately, we've taken a real keen interest in Azure Virtual Desktop and have been spending a lot of time looking at how we can bring a complete VDI solution to market with a managed services wrap.
Cool. So yeah, there's just a few discussion points that we're going to speak about today around Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop. So the first one is all around performance. So both of these new modern solutions can offer performance accelerated. So with this, they can scale up to your user and organizational requirements. As well as this, we want these environments to be secure. So with this, we'll discuss all of the security technologies that can be used with both solutions. As well as that, these solutions can be scaled at a click of a button from one user to thousands with ease.
Yeah, perfect. We're also going to be looking at both solutions and how your users can access them, regardless of your operating model. Cloud PCs can accommodate your needs. We'll have a look at the cost optimization opportunities within both solutions and the part they play to lower the total cost of ownership for your organization. And finally, we'll have a look at how we integrate these solutions within your existing infrastructure environments to ensure that they keep working the way that they've all been working this time.
Cool. Yeah. So let's just introduce what Windows in the cloud really means. So with this, we've accessed Windows now for the last 30 years. So Windows 98 and 95, all the way up to what we do now, Windows 10 and 11. So this, we're used to accessing that natively on a desktop, laptop, tablet. So with these new solutions now, there's a couple of new ways that we can access Windows. So these are all cloud-based, starting off with Cloud VDI, which is what we call Azure Virtual Desktop. This is like these traditional remote desktop services, but in the cloud with a lot of adding more features. With this, It's more built for flexibility and control.
Yeah, perfect. Windows 365 provides the flexibility of a cloud PC with a matching experience of ease and simplicity for administrators. As a SaaS solution, Microsoft take care of all the backend infrastructure, leaving your administrators with ease of just making the service available to your users. Its configuration is straightforward, user-friendly, and it scales with a click of a few buttons as the demand of your organization scales.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just go back to the Cloud VDI solution that I discussed. So Azure Virtual Desktop, but this is quite a game-changing solution for remote and hybrid work. But as I said earlier, this is built for more flexibility and control. As well as this, you have full control over the management and the deployment of it. So this can be completely scaled and deployed to your requirements. As I said earlier as well, this is a modern approach to the traditional remote desktop services platforms. So it uses familiar architecture, as we'll probably deep dive in this session. So as well as this, it's all based on consumption. So like any Azure and cloud resource, you only pay for what you use. And this is something that we want to do with Cloud VDI. We only want to make it sure that's cost efficient for you. As well as this, you might already use the existing licenses to use Azure Virtual Desktop.
Yeah, so Windows 365 is a modern SaaS solution, fully cloud-based, requiring no additional on-premises infrastructure or knowledge. It's built for simplicity from the ground up for both users and administrators. It's centrally managed in a single place within the Intune portal, and users can use one robust application to access their cloud PC. Configuration is super straightforward, and it can be deployed and scaled in a matter of minutes. It's a complete end-to-end Microsoft service, which utilizes all Microsoft services you may already be familiar with, such as Entra ID, Intune, Microsoft 365, Windows, and Office applications. Costs are simple and predictable, and you only pay for the compute power and storage you require. And finally, no classic VDI experience is required, as Microsoft manage the infrastructure all for you.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. So let's just switch back to Azure Virtual Desktop then. So as I discussed earlier, it's a very similar environment to like your traditional remote desktop services that we've used for years. So with AVD, you control everything that's in your Microsoft Azure subscription, such as your remote desktops, your remote applications, your operating system, so Windows 10, 11 multi-session, or even Windows Server can be used as well. With this, you manage your image applications and profiles, as well as networking and all of this scaling and sizing for your environment. So as I discussed then about remote desktop services, if we were to deploy that today, you'd have to deploy things such as a session broker, remote desktop gateway, and purchase additional client access licenses. With this, Microsoft manage a lot of this for you.
Yeah, perfect. I'm going to hammer home the simplicity of Windows 365 throughout this presentation, so bear with me. As we've touched on, Windows 365 is really simple to deploy, and this 4-step process can have hundreds of cloud PCs deployed in less than an hour. First, start with your licensing. Understand what compute power is required for your workloads and applications, and pick a cloud PC that can accommodate that. Pick an image that is familiar to you and your users and supports your applications. Pick from simple deployment options, like choosing your operating system language, the naming convention of your cloud PCs, and how Windows updates are deployed. And finally, you can create an Entra ID group and add your users to them to deploy cloud PCs for them automatically.
Yeah, it's super easy, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, really, really straightforward. And I'm sure people will get the message by the end of this, for sure.
So with this, sorry, go on, Dan.
No, go on. Okay. So when we think about Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365, we're utilizing virtual machines hosted in Azure. Those machines can range in their technical capability to meet the requirements of your organization. Let's hear a little bit more about that, Jamie.
Yeah, so absolutely. So when we think about it, we really are harnessing and utilizing the power of the cloud with these solutions. So with both of these, we have the ability to scale them to maximize performance, but also to be optimized for cost. And when we need to, these can be scaled to your workloads and applications. So with Azure, you actually are getting the high performance cloud resources, which are scalable across the globe.
Yeah, and with both Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365, you've got a choice of SKUs with varying performance to match the needs of your workloads. Azure Virtual Desktop has access to a large array of SKUs. This ranges from a single core 2 GB general purpose virtual machine right up to GPU enabled 100 core systems with nearly 1 terabyte of memory. Truly massive. Microsoft offer recommendations and guidance for selecting which SKU to pick for your workload. With multi-session configurations, a light workload can host up to 6 users per virtual core, or heavier workloads can scale up to a single user per core.
Yeah, exactly, Dan. So on the other side of this, with Windows 365, they're more catered for a 1 user per cloud PC scenario. So the range of SKUs and compute resources for Windows 365 are a lot more scaled to like a traditional desktop PC, for example. But as well as this, they have Microsoft currently have a public preview for GPU-based Windows 365 cloud PCs, which would be great for something like photo or video editing.
Yeah, that's perfect. So we know, and hopefully now you do too, that you really can tailor your requirements as an organization to obtain the compute power required for both your users and your workloads.
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. And like I say, on the topic of requirements, we all know that each organization, each department or each user might have a different set of requirements.
Yeah.
You might have some potential hardware or software compatibility issues. So newer applications or even older applications might not work on Azure Virtual Desktop or whichever. So with this, can you tell us what operating systems are available with AVD and Windows 365, Dan?
Yeah, definitely. So both Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 can be set up with a variety of Windows 10 and Windows 11 images straight from the Azure Compute Gallery. These images come predefined with Microsoft 365 apps installed, as well as a multitude of OS optimizations to improve Windows performance across virtual environments. In addition, Azure Virtual Desktop supports Windows Server 2016, 2019, and 2022. These pre-built gallery images are a great starting point for most scenarios.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we love using like vanilla images for this, don't we? So
yeah, it makes things a lot simpler.
Yeah, so with the Microsoft Managed Image Library, like I said, both Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 can use custom images. So you could build your own image with all your applications and all your settings pre-configured, which then can be scaled to all of your Cloud VDI and Cloud PCs. This would be great for an organization that has any custom in applications or any custom settings that they require in a cloud environment.
But yeah, absolutely. And finally, using the new custom image templates resource in Azure, you can quickly deploy customized images that are optimized for Azure Virtual Desktop. Custom image templates help you to standardize the configuration of your session hosts and provide a tailored experience for a simple GUI.
Yeah, so let's say if we don't want to manage our own image, so a lot of the time we don't want that management overhead of constantly updating applications and updating the image after that. So what do we want to say? We can use other technologies in Azure Virtual Desktop to keep that image a lot cleaner. So application updates, operating system updates can be done with minimal downtime.
Yeah.
So what options do we have with Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365, Dan?
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. So as with most solutions, there are multiple approaches that your organization can take to achieve your application management goals. Golden image was already discussed. We can create a golden image, which can then be stored in the Azure Compute Gallery. Your organization may be experienced with Intune already, and so you can leverage your existing policies and application packages. With Intune, users will have access to the company portal with your full suite of applications readily available. Intune works with both Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 also.
Yeah, exactly. I think we love using Intune with both of them, don't we? I think it's a really good solution. So circling back to Azure Virtual Desktop, so there's a couple of ways that we can deliver applications to end users, plus use newer technologies as well to further have that sort of clean image with Azure Virtual Desktop. So starting off with this is something called MSIX App Attach. So with this, it's a similar technology to what other VDI platforms use, but with this, an application gets attached to an operating system and it isn't installed on there. So these applications can get updated on themselves without the need to be installed locally on the operating system. Finally, with this, a different way to deliver applications to end users is through remote apps. With remote applications, that end user will use the application natively like a application that is installed locally on their desktop or laptop.
Yeah, perfect. So we need to talk a bit about user profiles now. Given the nature of Windows 365, users may have important documents stored on their own workstations that they require access to. OneDrive can be used to make the documents, pictures, and downloads accessible. With Azure Virtual Desktop, however, and multi-session host pools, it's important to maintain the functionality of the desktop and user profile so that it's consistent between session hosts. And this is where FSLogic comes up. And Jamie will go through that now.
Yeah, absolutely. So FSLogic has been around for a while now, and you can use it with other VDI platforms as well. FSLogic was acquired by Microsoft in 2018, I believe. And with this handles the roaming of user profiles. So we can deploy a fully roaming profile cloud natively in Azure with the use of Azure Storage, Azure Files, and FSLogics. This is very similar to how roaming profiles would work in an on-premises environment. So yeah, just to summarise this then, so both solutions, as we've discussed, harness the power of the cloud, and both solutions offer benefits and advantages which are slightly different to each other. So complexities in Azure Virtual Desktop might not allow you to use Windows 365, whilst the simplicity of Windows 365 may be a considerable factor in its use.
Yeah, so moving on then to having a look at the security piece. Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 include many security capabilities that are designed to keep your organization safe and protect your data. We'll have a look at those capabilities now. The first of which is how we control our identity. Can you tell us a little bit about this, Jamie?
Yeah, sure. So with anything Microsoft and Microsoft Cloud tools, Microsoft Entra ID is the platform for anything identity. And it's no different with Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365. Both of these solutions can use Microsoft Entra ID to control security for end users. So this is through conditional access, through multi-factor authentication, and they can all your users can use the same identity and credentials to log into both solutions.
Yeah, and with a Microsoft 365 Enterprise subscription, you can further secure your organization with the implementation of security products like conditional access, privileged identity management, and identity protection. And we'll touch on those now.
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. So with conditional access, this allows you to set a strict set of security policies for your identity. So this is your end users logging in to both solutions. So this could require multi-factor authentication or restricted to a certain location or required to be signed in on a company device, for example.
Yeah, and identity protection complements conditional access further by adding a layer of automation which monitors the behavioral characteristics of your users and apps to identify if they become compromised.
Yeah, exactly. Again, we love using identity protection. It's a great tool for our clients, and we always suggest it when using anything with Entra ID. So another great tool for this is privileged identity management. So you may have heard of this already, but basically this enforces your organization's zero trust policy. So traditionally, administration privilege roles are always enabled. So what privileged identity management does is remove that always required role from an end user, from an administrator. So this empowers your users to work a bit more securely when administrating and managing these environments.
Yeah, definitely something we highly recommend. So a lot of really great security capabilities to utilize for controlling and protecting your identity, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. So as I said, we could extend this security to the compute resources of this. So yeah, session hosting as a virtual desktop. So can you talk a bit about this, Dan?
Absolutely. The first thing to look at is session controls, which can be configured for Azure Virtual Desktop to control how a user session is managed and what actions are allowed. For instance, you can set how long a user can remain in an idle state until they've been disconnected automatically.
Yeah, absolutely. And this frees up that session host for end users, right? So with this, as well as session controls, we have further controls over security, such as disabling the clipboard, so stopping copy and paste from a local machine to a virtualized environment such as AVD, and vice versa. As well as this, we can use things such as watermarking. So this would put a watermark on the session desktop to prevent any potential data loss, and things such as screen capture protection also.
Yeah, I love it. Loads of great services for organizations to use. So for Azure Virtual Desktop infrastructure, there are multiple security services we can leverage to safeguard users and data. These include network security groups, Azure Firewall, Bastion, and more. Can you explain a bit about this?
Yeah, sure. So if you're familiar with Microsoft Azure, you might have already heard of some of these tools, but again, with Azure Virtual Desktop, these will be used, and we would suggest using some of these. So with network security groups, they're basically allowed to filter traffic between Azure resources. So this could be, for example, removing remote desktop from a session host. So you have to use something else to access that session host, for example.
Yeah, and with Azure Firewall, you can control the access you provide to your resources with a reliable firewall. With an implicit deny configuration, you can block out all access through the firewall by default and only allow the connections which you trust. And with the premium SKU, you can gain further benefits such as web content filtering. It's also advisable to deploy all network-related resources in a hub and spoke model for best practice.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something we suggest when we're deploying Azure Virtual Desktop, is we use that hub and spoke model.
Yeah.
So as I discussed earlier about removing, for example, remote desktop access, there is other tools that we can use as IT administrators to get access to our virtual machine resources in Azure. So one of these is Azure Bastion. So Azure Bastion is basically like a jump box, but in the cloud. So there's no need to deploy a virtual machine jump box. Azure Bastion is natively this in the Azure portal directly. So an administrator can log in to a virtual machine using Bastion, and it sort of acts like that jump box as we traditionally use.
Yeah, and we need to talk about how we connect your on-premises resources as well. So you can configure express routes and VPNs, which provide direct connections to your data centers. A VPN provides a direct link through the public domain, whereas an express route is deployed by utilizing your own private pathway to and from your LSP. This is the best option for on-premises connectivity in the cloud.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if you want to use these solutions with your on-premise applications, you'll need some connectivity back to your on-premises.
Yeah.
And these are the best solutions for that. So going back to Azure Virtual Desktop, so you might have heard of the Microsoft Defender suite. You might already be familiar with it. With Defender for Cloud, we can use this to further bolster our security posture within Azure. So this will detect any potential vulnerabilities or cyber threats within your environment, but it will also provide some recommendations to further strengthen your cloud security. So we suggest using this at anything in Azure, especially with something like Cloud VDI.
All great stuff and help build a resilient and secure infrastructure that is protected against threats.
Yeah, exactly. So circling back to Windows 365 then. So with this, there's a wide range of security features from Windows 365 that are enabled by default. So with Windows 365 being built for simplicity for end users, it's also built for simplicity for administrators as well. So a lot of these security features, such as virtual TPM and secure boot, are enabled by default.
Yeah, so your organizational data is stored on cloud PCs for anyone accessing the Windows 365 service. This data is secured with server-side encryption, which ensures that all data that is stored at rest is secure.
Yeah, absolutely. And just going back to the sort of regular client updates, so end users will have to log into these services from somewhere, and that's normally through an application. And thankfully, Microsoft look after these updates for us to keep them secure.
Yeah, so both solutions provide a secure working environment for your users. With Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365, you can utilize Microsoft's Identity Platform Entra to seamlessly integrate users into both platforms and provide an extra layer of identity-based security with conditional access and identity protection. It's great that Windows 365 is built from the ground up for simplicity, but also provides security as default. Utilizing the Microsoft Defender suite for both solutions can greatly enhance your security posture, allowing you to gain insights into potential threats and to further implement a zero trust methodology.
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. That's something that is a key selling point with both of these solutions, that they can quickly plug in and you gain a better security posture from that.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. Okay, so let's talk about scale. How does Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 scale to meet the demands of an ever-changing organization?
So Azure Virtual Desktop, as we discussed, is a completely scalable platform for you and your organization. So for example, we all know that you might have different organizational department requirements, and these might be just to carry out a various range of tasks. So Azure Virtual Desktop can cater for these. So for example, you might have a host pool, which again is basically a collection of compute resources which are assigned to a certain task or application. So you might have a host pool, which is designated to a certain legacy application that's quite resource intensive, whereas you might have different host pool for your standard Microsoft Office applications. So with this, these host pools could scale up from, again, one virtual machine to 100 with a click of a button.
Yeah, and with Azure Virtual Desktop, there are two types of host pool configurations which you can choose from, depending on how you want to manage load, compute cost, and other organizational requirements. There are personal and pooled. Do you want to take us through personal?
Yeah, sure. So personal host pools is very similar to Windows 365, but in AVD. So with this, it provides a user a dedicated machine in Azure Virtual Desktop. So what's normally known as a session host. And it's only that virtual machine that one user can access. So this would be great for something like a dedicated computer-aided design machine, or for photo editing, or any of those sort of resource-intensive use cases.
Yeah, and with a pooled host pool, user sessions are load balanced across an array of session hosts, and multiple users can access the same session host concurrently, which provides a separated desktop experience. Pooled host pools offer a shared remote experience, which lowers compute cost and provides greater efficiency. This is akin to traditional remote desktop experiences.
Yeah, exactly. This is the host pool we see most when we deploy Azure Virtual Desktop.
Yeah, definitely.
Is the personal host pools and the pooled.
Totally
So
agree.
with this as well, like we discussed, there's GPU enhanced session hosts. So with the amount of virtual machine SKUs available in Azure, there's GPU based ones as well that can be used with Azure Virtual Desktop. These are great again for video editing, computer aided design, and maybe some AI and deep learning as well.
Yeah, there are also ways Azure assists with automating the scaling process. Do you want to start taking us through those?
Yeah, sure. So with any of this stuff, automation is key. And with Azure Virtual Desktop, that automation is built into the solution. So meeting on your demands of your workloads in your organization, the Azure platform can provide a variety of ways to provision new resources quickly, easily, and repeatedly.
Yeah, from within the Azure portal, you can choose to deploy multiple virtual machines at the same time, or use ARM templates to create consistent configuration files for future deployments. Outside of the portal, you can choose to use tools such as the Azure Virtual Desktop Landing Zone Accelerator, which provides a single place for you to configure and then deploy all of your Azure Virtual Desktop resources. It's also important to note that there are many other different landing zone accelerators available for you to use.
Yeah, exactly. And we love using the AVD landing zone accelerator. It's an all-in-one shop for deploying AVD in various different methods. So the way shaping cloud, we would suggest, and we're big advocates of infrastructure as code. So this is deploying Azure resources, but with code. So with this, it can be easily scaled, version controlled, and can be deployed repeatedly format. So Dan, can you talk us about how we would do this using pre-built images?
Yes, so all session hosts within a host pool must use the same operating system image. And so with the aid of various different ways of deploying Windows images in Azure, you can easily scale and create additional session hosts as your organization scales. Using custom image templates, you can create a golden image with your required configuration and deploy it to the Azure Compute Gallery. That image can then be seamlessly fetched and used when creating a new session host, automating the deployment process and just reducing the overhead required to provision new session hosts.
Yeah, exactly. These images can be scaled across the globe and be scaled to wherever your users are. So with this again, so let's go back to how we would scale an Azure Virtual Desktop environment to meet your user usage patterns. So with this, there's a thing called scaling plans. So this essentially scales up your virtual desktop environment when your users most need it, but when they log off on an evening or whenever, they will then shut down Azure Virtual Desktop, and Azure Virtual Desktop itself will then scale down further to optimize cost. And this is great. So for example, like I said, with Azure Virtual Desktop, the user will log in into a morning, say 9 AM, Azure Virtual Desktop will scale up to meet that demand. But then at 5 PM, when people leave for the day, that will then scale back down. And that's great, again, like I said, for optimizing cost and making sure that your users have enough resource available.
Yeah, really efficient system there. So another great feature of Azure Virtual Desktop is Start VM on Connect. With this, compute costs are reduced as session hosts are kept offline until your users require them. When a user attempts to connect to the session host, it's automatically turned on for them and the service is made available. There is an increase in the time it takes for a user to connect to a session host which has been turned off, because Azure needs to turn the session host on. This is similar to turning on your physical computer at home, but there is a message that's displayed to the end user to let them know that's happening.
Yeah, exactly, Dan. I think scaling plans and Start VM on Connect go hand in hand. So you might want to wait for Azure Virtual Desktop till a user first switches that virtual machine on. That's where it's great.
Yeah.
So with Windows 365, scaling is made simple. So with a few click of a buttons, when you deploy a cloud PC, that could be to one person or to hundreds. And by adding that user to that group, they will get a provisioned PC within minutes.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's talk about how we access these solutions. So the real benefit of the cloud is that this stuff can be made available anywhere and practically at any time. So Dan, can you talk about like the main thing around this with accessing a Windows-based environment?
Yeah, so with Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365, you get access to a Windows environment with the latest updates and security patches. Windows 11 brings you all the latest and greatest features, and with this, users can bring their own devices, such as a MacBook, and get access to a full Windows machine, which your organization is familiar with and knows how to support.
Yeah, exactly. So with this, you can access it from a traditional laptop and desktop as well. So the remote desktop tool that is required to use to access Azure Virtual Desktop provides a sleek interface, and you access all your desktop and applications really at ease.
Yeah. Something I'm really happy to have a little chat about is the new Windows app, which provides you with a single place to manage and access all of your cloud PCs, including Azure Virtual Desktop, Windows 365, and Microsoft DevBox, all in one place. And it can be used on a plethora of devices like laptops, tablets, desktops, and smartphones. It really consolidates all of the applications and all of the experiences into a single place and just makes things a lot easier for users to pick up and get working day to day wherever they are.
Yeah, exactly, Dan. And going back to the Azure Virtual Desktop, so with remote applications that we discussed before, if you're using a native Windows device to access Azure Virtual Desktop and these remote applications, they can be pinned to the start menu, to the taskbar, and even as a shortcut to the desktop. So to the end user, they feel native, like they're installed on the operating system. But as we know as IT administrators, they are virtualized in Azure Virtual Desktop.
Yeah, a picture you yourself found, Jamie, and I remember you showing it to me, and we were both pretty taken back by that because that is some cool integration and really helps consolidate both of those environments into one. So finally, to support you with your on-the-go remote working experience, you can access Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 through any modern browser, such as Edge, Chrome, and Firefox. Through the browser, your cloud PC experience remains the same, allowing your users to work in any situation and any location without compromise.
Yeah, exactly. And really good things with these applications, once a user's signed on, so that might be even through single sign-on, which can be used, it's automatically configured so a user can get up and running straight away without any issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, a great subject, and I'm sure one we're all keen to hear about. Let's take a turn and have a look at some of the cost-saving benefits of the Azure platform and Windows 365 and what they can do to lower costs for you.
Cool. Yeah, so with Azure Virtual Desktop, there's an all-in-one dashboard for reporting, which has all of your metrics and stats to you further to analyze your environment and to see if you can reduce cost with this. So Azure Virtual Desktop Insights has everything from CPU utilization, the amount of users who log into your environment, plus any issues around load times or any utilization stats. So it's a great unified tool that you can use to then perhaps scale back your environment or even scale up if required.
Yeah, and all of this is being built using Azure's pay-as-you-go consumption-based model, which allows you to manage your resources per subscription and means that you only pay for the service you utilize. It provides a fully flexible service where resources can be scaled on demand as required. And with this, you can provision 100 virtual machines within a few minutes, use them, destroy them, and you only pay for the time that they're active.
Yeah, exactly, Dan. And I think even going further forward from the consumption-based pricing, you can use things such as Azure reserved instances and saving plans to further make your environment more cost efficient. So reserved instance is where you reserve a certain amount of compute resources for X amount of time. And this can save up to 60% in your cost of that time. So it's a really good tool. And if you're planning on using Azure Virtual Desktop for a long time, we'd recommend you use that.
Yeah. And the Azure Pricing Calculator is a free online tool which you can use to accurately estimate the cost of your Azure resources, fine-tuning the cost by various resource-related configurations. It covers a wide range of resources and provides a detailed breakdown of the charge for the service, giving you a real good way to estimate your future costs for your Azure service. As an organization, this is used all of the time to accurately estimate how much an environment will cost for you.
Yeah, exactly, Dan. I think we use the Azure calculator near enough every day if we're interacting with clients about cost, about the sort of ins and outs of deployment. The Azure Virtual Desktop's a really
Just
cool
gives them a great
tool.
way of predicting what their costs are going to be.
Yeah, exactly. So as we discussed earlier, you might already be using the licenses that you use every day for Microsoft 365 to be able to use Azure Virtual Desktop plus Windows 365 purchases. So as well as this, there's Azure Hybrid benefit, which you can use your on-premises licenses, but in the cloud to, again, further enhance that cost reduction.
Yeah, we've also got the Windows Hybrid benefit, which is a Microsoft licensing benefit that helps reduce the cost of Windows 365 Business by receiving a discount of up to 16% on your subscription if you already use Windows 11 Pro or Windows 10 Pro on any device. There's also license extensibility. With this, organizations who already have qualifying Microsoft 365 licenses do not need any additional licenses to access Windows 11 Pro, Windows 10 Enterprise, or Microsoft Endpoint Manager with Windows 365 Enterprise.
Yeah, exactly. And going back to that traditional remote desktop environment, as we discussed earlier, you'd have to purchase additional licenses for your users, and these are client access licenses.
Exactly.
But with this, if you was using Windows Server with AVD, you'd still need to buy those licenses. So we suggest to use something like Windows 10 multi-session or Windows 11 multi-session for those pooled environments. So moving on to Windows 365, it enables you to lower and eliminate costs in several areas. Initially, it would appear that consumption-based models are more advantageous to your enterprise. However, companies that we deal with often find the monthly charges extend far beyond projections and when usage spikes unexpectedly. Windows 365 is SaaS-based by nature and provides pricing which is more simple and charged per user per month.
Perfect. Yeah, great. And Microsoft have also created the Application Usability Assurance Program to make sure that your applications work in Windows 365. So applications that worked on Windows 7, 8.1, 10, and 11 also work on Windows 365 and are supported by App Assurance. App Assurance is a Microsoft service that helps organizations with more than 150 seats remediate any issues they may experience with applications deployed to the latest version of Windows 365. As such, if an application does not work, Microsoft will troubleshoot the issue with you, determine the root cause, and help fix the issue. And this service is provided at no extra cost.
Awesome, Dan. Yeah, thanks for giving us an overview of App Assurance there. So the last final section of this is how we integrate both of these into your environment. And thankfully, both can be really done seamlessly. So let's dive into how we do that, Dan.
Yeah, so Azure Virtual Desktop can be deployed using a variety of tools and following select processes and frameworks to meet the technical capabilities of your organization. Enterprise scale is an architectural approach and a reference implementation that enables effective construction and operation of Azure at scale. This approach aligns with the Azure roadmap and the cloud adoption framework for Azure. Natively within the Azure portal, you can click to deploy resources, and we like to call this ClickOps. This is a foundational way of deploying resources and doesn't offer the repeatability or scale as some of the things we're going to touch on. This is not how we choose to deploy Azure Virtual Desktop and is instead best for testing, learning, and tinkering.
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. And again, we wouldn't suggest we do it through the portal. Well, again, as we've spoken before, we're quite big advocates of it, infrastructure as code at Shaping Cloud. And there's numerous ways we could do that. So, for example, we could use the native Azure Resource Manager templates or ARM templates to deploy a repeatable service. So that could be used with Azure Virtual Desktop. As well as this, we could use some open source infrastructure as code languages, which again, we use at Shaping Cloud. And we use things such as Azure DevOps and GitHub to make sure that we deploy a enterprise scale environment for you.
Yeah. The Azure Virtual Desktop Landing Zone Accelerator is a new community-driven solution which provides an architectural approach and reference implementation to prepare landing zone subscriptions for a scalable Azure Virtual Desktop deployment. It takes everything into consideration and provides a great experience that allows you to focus on the organizational requirements of deploying Azure Virtual Desktop. The accelerator takes into consideration your skill level and can be deployed in multiple ways as discussed.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the landing zone accelerator could be a one-stop shop, can't it? For any of this.
Yeah.
So as well as all of these deployment methods, there's some third-party tools as well that can be used, which provide an overlay on top of what we can already do inside of Azure Virtual Desktop. And these can further optimize for cost and for performance.
Yeah, and as we touched on previously, with Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365, you can leverage your existing directory service, like Active Directory, to provide an identity service for your users. This allows users to use login credentials that they're familiar with when signing into their cloud PC, providing a cohesive experience between both on-premise and cloud environments.
Yeah, exactly, Dan. And we love to use both Azure Active Directory, Hybrid Identity, or even Cloud Native with Entra ID. So with both of these, it's great that we can use Microsoft Intune for both Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365. So all of your organizational policies, all your organizational data and applications can both be used on Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365. So if you're already using Intune, you're already familiar with it, these can again seamlessly plug in into your environment and can be used relatively quickly.
Yeah, so of course, keeping your cloud PCs is up to date. Keeping your cloud PCs up to date is super important. And so updates for your Windows 365 cloud PCs can be handled through Windows Update for Business and Windows Auto Patch. Windows Update for Business is a cloud-based engine deployed for Intune that requires no additional infrastructure. You can use deployment rings to simplify the update management experience without having to approve each individual update. Furthermore, you can configure and control deferral periods and servicing channels for your users, a nice way of tailoring specific updates for the needs of your organization.
Yeah, exactly, Dan. We use Windows Update for Business internally at Shape
We
as
do,
well.
yeah.
So there's another feature as well called Windows Auto Patch, which can fully utilize and automatically handle the updates for your cloud PCs without the need to create any configuration that's required for such things such as Windows Update for Business. So again, with Windows 365, there's a tool called Windows Autopilot. Again, you might be familiar with this if you're used to Microsoft Intune. So this essentially, once a cloud PC is enabled for a user, Windows Autopilot will kick in and deploy all of your policies, applications. So when the user goes through Autopilot, they are ready to go with a cloud PC that is customized for that user.
Yeah, exactly it.
Cool.
Amazing. Jamie and Daniel, thank you so much for outlining all of the features, advantages and benefits of Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 in such detail. For anyone listening, if you'd like to learn more, the guys have put together a really comprehensive, really detailed ebook and associated case study that covers our recent implementation of AVD for one of the UK's largest law firms. If you'd like a copy, please do get in touch or visit our LinkedIn page. Alternatively, if you prefer, we'd be delighted to run a free one-on-one demonstration with you that showcases each solution's depth and breadth of control in real time. Finally, I'm delighted to announce that we've also recently added 4 new AVD-centered propositions to the Azure Marketplace. So wherever you are on your cloud PC journey, from ideation right through to deployment, we've got you covered. Thank you so much for listening. On behalf of everyone here, we hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.
Cheers. Bye-bye.